Let's get started looking at some type terminology. There are many different terms for the different parts of letters. I've distilled them down to this simple diagram. And these are the things that we really need to know. So we have the baseline. This is the imagined or implied line upon which the type sits. Above this, we have the X height, which marks the height of the lowercase characters. Then we have the cap height, which pretty much is self-explanatory, marking the height of the capitals. And above that, the ascender height. All parts of the letters that go above the X height are referred to as the ascenders. Those parts of the letters that go beneath the baseline are referred to as descenders. The interior parts of the letters are referred to as counters. And in the case of this particular font, it is an old-style serif font, and it has bracketed serifs, as indicated here on the P, and it also has a transition between the thick parts of the stroke and the thin parts of the stroke. Typography is necessarily pedantic and relies a lot upon small details. A typeface is a complete alphabet including letters, numerals, punctuations, accents. So for example, a typeface would be Adobe Garamond Pro. A font is a specific size and style of that typeface. For example, Adobe Garamond Pro 10-point regular. However, people do use these terms interchangeably, and I'm likely to slip into using them interchangeably myself. But if we want to be specific, that's the distinction between a typeface and a font. There are many different types of typefaces that we can use, and the broadest distinction we can make is between serif and sans serif. And here we have an example of a serif font, the serifs indicated by the circles, the twirly bits, the decorations on the ends of the letters. And in this case, the serifs are bracketed, although that's not always the case because there are numerous different types of serif fonts. And on the right-hand side here we have an example of a contemporary sans serif font called Myriad Pro. Typography has its own measurement system, picas and points. And if you want to be serious about your typography, I suggest that you get used to using these measurements as opposed to using inches or millimeters. And the reason for this is that type is never expressed in anything other than points. So things that relate to type, like leading, paragraph spacing, intercolumn spacing or gutter spacing, are also best expressed in points. The parent of points is a pica. There are 12 points to one pica. 6 picas equals 72 points equals 1 inch, or if we're working with the metric system, 25.4 centimeters or 254 millimeters. If we're writing in picas, 1 pica and 6 points, or 1p6, equals 18 points. My preferred unit of measurement is to work in points exclusively. And we can switch our unit of measurement by coming up here to where our rulers intersect and right-click, and to our heart's content switch back and forth between InDesign's supported measurement systems. Typography also has relative units, the most common examples being the M space and the N space. And we also have the M dash and the N dash, the long dash and the dash that is half the width of that dash. An M space is the size of your type. So if your type size is 12 points, so too is your M space. And the N space is half of that amount. One thing that can be a little bit confusing about the size of type is that when you measure letters, the height of the letter is less than its point size. And that's a legacy of the days of metal type, when the size of the type actually referred to the height of the type block. And here we have a diagram here where the face of the letter occupies less than 100% of the vertical size of the type block. And we can see what percentage of the vertical height of the type block the letter actually occupies varies from typeface to typeface. And here on the left and right we have a comparison of two different typefaces, both set at the same size. 10/12, the 12 refers to the leading, or the space between the lines, and that is expressed 10/12. So on the left-hand side we have Helvetica 10/12, on the right-hand side Minion Pro 10/12, and even though they are the same size, obviously we can see that the Helvetica occupies more space. These days, obviously, we are not working with metal type, but type is created digitally, and these three screen captures are from a font creation program called FontLab Studio. And if I zoom in on the G, for example, this area represents the M square in which the G is constructed. It occupies a certain set width of that M square that is far less than the potential 1000 units. This line here marks the baseline, and this line marks the X height. The widest character in your font set is likely to be the M dash, which occupies almost all of the potential 1000 units. And over on the right hand side we see an example of the uppercase A, where we have the cap height and the ascender height. So those are some type terms. Let's now move on and look at some typeface classifications.